Hi everyone, welcome back to Storytime Recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the film from 2010, Devil. Without any further, let's get started. The movie opens with a Bible verse from Peter 5:8. According to his mother's story, the devil takes on human form and roams the earth in search of people to punish their misdeeds, which also claims that suicide prepares the way for the devil to appear at the devil's gathering. A janitor polishes a skyscraper's inside floor. While listening to music, a man falls to his death and crashes onto the truck's roof right behind him. In the meantime, the detective dines in and has breakfast with his friends. They talk about how the detective can learn to forgive the guy who killed his family, but the detective doesn't agree because there are some things in life that cannot be forgiven.
Can we just...
Later, they discover a corpse on top of the truck clutching a rosary, and the detective visits a nearby store building with the partner to find out about a recent event. The detective is certain that the car is from somewhere else because it merely slid onto the street and landed next to the two-store building. Inside the same skyscraper, 5 strangers gather into elevator 6. Those are the elderly woman, the salesman, the temporary watchman, the young woman, and the mechanic. As they ascend, a song plays in elevator. The panel board's floor number locator cannot be seen, and elevator 6 abruptly stops halfway. In the meantime, Ramirez brings coffee for another watchman, Lustig. As he sits in the control room, he notices that elevator 6 is in inspection mode. Lustig phones to check on elevator 6, as the building engineer is ready to repair a humanized broken window glass on floor 35. The elderly woman in elevator complains the skyscraper's quality, as the temporary watchman presses the emergency button to warn his coworkers. Lustig radios them from the control room, in order to calm everyone that the issue is being fixed. He also asks them to talk via panel board. Sadly, the passengers are only able to hear the security radio and are unable to speak to it. Since everyone in elevator 6 is irritated, the temporary watchman tries to call the front desk using the young woman's phone, but is unable.
Hello? Have to deal.
After he and his partner stumble upon glass fragments on the road just outside the building, the janitor then sweeps the glasses and informs the detective that the window is broken. The detective immediately stops the janitor's cleaning and declares the broken glasses a crime scene. Luckily, the detective and partner spot and move away of the glass falling from the sky right away. Ramirez continues his story, claiming that the devil punishes the imprisoned damned people by killing or injuring innocent individuals who step in. When the building engineer gets to the rooftop, he flips the power switch to look for a brief, and elevator 6 breaks. The light flickers and the first blackout happens, making everyone a little alarmed. The light then comes back on, and the mechanic pushes the lift ceiling upward to open a hatch, exposing a space outside the lift.
Anybody know where the bathroom is in this?
In the control room, Ramirez is shocked to learn from Lustig that someone leaped from level 35. He then kindly reassures the passengers that they are making every effort to rescue them. At the same time, the young woman suspects and alerts the salesman behind her after sensing that a hand has grasped her back. When the elevator's light flickers once more, Lustig calls the building engineer to ask if he's fixing the lights. The engineer responds that he's in the basement. In any case, the building engineer uses the emergency lever to turn off the elevator's power, but it doesn't work, so he returns the roof and manually resets the elevator. While Lustig talks with the building engineer, Ramirez sees a scary look on the elevator's surveillance monitor. When the second blackout happens, everyone panics. When the lights come back on, they see a young woman on the ground with a bleeding bite mark on her back. Ramirez and Lustig observe them from the monitor, and they see that the salesman's hands and clothes are covered in blood. He defends himself by stating that the young woman fell on him. At that point, everyone becomes suspicious of the salesperson, and after noticing the young woman's wound, the 2 surveillance watchmen decide to notify the police. Coincidentally, the detective and partner are nearby looking into the recent suicide. While he waits for the cops to arrive, Ramirez shows Lustig the scary visage, but Lustig ignores it as a typical error. Still, Ramirez prays with his rosary, thinking it is the devil. The mechanic and the temporary watchman try to open the elevator door. When the salesmen want to help them, the watchmen push him away. The detective then enters the control room and uses the radio to persuade the passengers to calm down.
How soon till we get in?
Shortly after, he gives his partner instructions to contact the fire department, elevator company, and temporary watchman's details. In order to identify them, the detective then asks the passengers to show their driver's license on the camera, but the letters are too small. As the detective and his partner scan the sign in long sheet in the lobby, Ramirez stays on guard in the control room. At that point, the light in elevator 6 flickers once more, giving the young woman a sight of everyone who is dead within the elevator. When the wall mirrors abruptly break and the third blackout happens, everyone in the room panics. When the lights return, they find the salesman impaled with a glass shard on his jugular vein and dies. Ramirez informs the detective right away, as does his partner in Lustig, who will soon find out the temporary watchman's details. It turns out that the interim watchman is a thug with a criminal history of attacks. When they all go to the control room, the detective deems the events in elevator 6 to be a crime scene. Ramirez becomes agitated and reminds everyone of the recent suicide, the injury, and the unexpected death. He tries to suggest that the events are known as the Devil's Meeting, in which the devil is among those who torture the damned people on earth before taking them away. Lustig tries to calm Ramirez down, but he is firm in his belief that the devil is among the passengers. Ramirez's claim is rejected by the detective, who then looks at the monitor and states that the passengers are not likely murderers. He then asks a volunteer to retrieve the folded paper that is inside the salesman's coat, and the mechanic voluntarily grabs the letter and displays the salesman's true name and the Better Business Bureau's return address on floor 35. Inside elevator 6, everyone goes quiet upon realizing the police must be speculating who's the killer.
See some things you wish you had.
The two detectives and the two surveillance watchmen meet with the newly arriving firefighter in the lobby. The detective then meets with the female officer on floor 35 to discuss the death. She shows him the suicide note that was left in the office with the final words, "I can hear the devil's footsteps approaching." She thinks suicide notes are either insane or illogical, but the one in their hands is both. The firefighters are unable to break open the elevator door, and the mechanic fails to climb out the hatch because the young woman believes he is trying to flee. The detective also visits the clerk at the Better Business Bureau on a similar level. The salesman scammed people of a lot of their assets through his scam scheme, so the detective asks the clerk for the list of persons he defrauded. In order to prove his innocence, the mechanic even allows the temporary watchman to search him. The detective then goes back to the control room and wants that Lustig show each incident that occurred in elevator 6 earlier. At that moment, Ramirez shows a scary visage on the screen, stating that even though men like you don't believe in the devil, everyone does. Suddenly, the detective pulls out a coupon with a written note saying, "I'm so sorry." It is revealed that the detective's wife and son died in Bethlehem 5 years ago as a result of a hit and run, and the killer left a coupon like this on the crash site. The detective then sarcastically says that it's okay because the killer is sorry. Since the detective thinks that mankind are capable of horrible deeds, he rejects the idea of the devil. The detective looks at the video and begins to expect the young woman after observing her acting as though she had been seized. In the meantime, the building engineer attempts to descend inside the blocked elevator, but when its machine unexpectedly becomes stuck, the chain that holds him to a wire breaks, sending him falling to his death. Lustig begs the building engineer to use the walkie-talkie, but the engineer has already crashed with the roof of elevator 6, causing the lift to go badly and the cable lights to go out. When the detective finds the building engineer dead on the rooftop, he instantly gives the firefighters the order to break the wall on floor 21, which they do. Later, the detective goes back to the control room and watches the security tape of all the passengers entering the tower. They discover that the old woman is a famous thief who stole a woman's wallet in the lobby. After the old woman, the detective learns that the mechanic entered the building with a duffel bag, but he no longer has it in the elevator. As the detective is ready to look for the bag, elevator 6's light flickers once more and goes out for the third time. When the lights come back on and the thief is hanging dead through a light cable from the ceiling, the detective orders the entire building to be locked down and gathers everyone from their offices in the lobby. Before leaving to carry out the order, the partner asks a shut-off valve to be turned off before opening the wall on floor 21. Lustig advises carrying it out and follows the partner outside the control room. Ramirez stays with the detectives, claiming that every one of the people stuck in the elevator is there for a reason, proving that the devil is responsible for everything. Meanwhile, an unnamed woman tries to enter the building but is stopped by the entrance guard. According to Ramirez, the devil murders the last person in front of the person they love the most. After the mechanic and the temporary watchman in elevator 6 remove the thief from the light cables, the detective looks into the technician and, with his fellow worker, finds the duffel bag hidden in the lobby restroom. They suspect the mechanic more because of the tools found inside the duffel bag. The mechanic and the temporary watchman in elevator 6 begin fighting since they believe each other to be the murderer. The young woman instructs the temporary watchman to heal a mechanic in order to stop more deaths, and he does so, creating chaos inside. Luckily, the detective returns to the control room and manages to descale the tension by instructing the remaining passengers to place their hands on the wall. Desperate for answers, the detective asks Ramirez for a way to save the passengers. If the devil is really present, Ramirez responds that they all die. The detective then goes back to work on identifying the passenger. The young woman is in the building to meet with her attorney, so they go to the lobby to meet her. After their conversation, the detective makes a failed attempt to get in touch with the young woman's spouse. Lustig suddenly shows up in the hallway appearing burnt from electrocution, after successfully shutting off the shut-off valve. Immediately, the detective calls for the medics and disperses the gathering crowd. When the young woman in elevator 6 takes her hands off the wall due to an aching wound, the mechanic instructs her to put them back on the wall. This is when the detective learns that the young woman actually called her lawyer for legal advice after her husband, who owns the building security company, may have noticed that she had stolen his inheritance money. The detective and his partner instantly head to the control room, where the partner reveals that it's a crime that happened before, when a husband killed his wife and strangers to appear as personal killing in a serial. It is possible that the young woman's husband paid the temporary watchman to murder her and then killed the others to hide the crime. But when the fourth blackout occurs and the lights come back on, and the temporary watchman dies from a broken neck, everything changes. The mechanic and the young woman arm themselves with mirror shards. Despite this, the detective instantly calms the situation by telling them to take responsibility for their errors and learn from them.
The thing is, my only way out of hell was to take responsibility.
But when the lights go out for a fifth time and the young woman's throat is cut, the technician tries to stem the bleeding. At that moment, they call the unnamed woman to the control room, where she recognizes the mechanic as her fiancé. When a mechanic shows up for a job interview, he hides his equipment because he didn't want to bring them. His fiancé comes to the skyscraper to pick him up, and everyone knows the mechanic did check in, and the old woman is the devil. The devil, posing as an elderly woman, confronts the mechanic in elevator 6 and demands his life. The mechanic tries to trade his life for the young woman's life, but the devil says, "I can't do that. In addition, do you think you are worthy of forgiveness?" At the end of the film, the mechanic confesses and apologizes for escaping from a hit and run in Bethlehem Highway 5 years prior. The detective learns that the mechanic is to blame for his family's deaths, and the devil weakens as a result of the mechanic's remorse, which causes the elevator to plummet several levels. The mechanic is ultimately saved by the firefighters, and the detective apprehends the mechanic, and the medics extricate the bodies. The detective reveals that his family members died in the hit and run, and he unexpectedly ends it by accepting the mechanic's apology. Thanks for watching. And remember to turn on your notifications to watch more movie recaps like this one.